Hello, just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. I think we are long overdue a new, upcoming and recent releases type video. I'm not gonna lie, I've been putting this off because the makeup releases did not slow down over the festive season and they were building up and then it got to a point where there was so much new stuff to talk about and then I didn't know how far back I should go. And I think I'll just kind of pick the highlights. If there's anything that's maybe not relevant anymore, I'll skip over it. I've got my tablet in front of me. I've got a split screen going on so I can see the pictures I've saved and I can refer back to Instagram, hopefully relatively quickly when I need to. So I'm going to start with this trio of palettes from NBA Cosmetics. And it's as if they've been listening to me rant and rave about how much I love blue, purple and green, because you've guessed it, the theme of each of these palettes, there's a purple one, there's a green one and there's a blue one. The purple one almost looks like it's a condensed version of the collaboration that Deandra Nicole did with Bella Beauté Bar. I don't own the Bella Beauté Bar palette myself. It's one I would probably jump to get because purple, but Bella Beauté Bar is pricey for me to get, and I've decided now that I'm going to steer a bit clearer of palettes that are a bit more monochromatic. I want to get that range, and as much as I love blue, purple and green especially, I think I need to steer clear of palette curations that lean towards those colours. So then you've got the blue one, which this one's probably the most broad when you think about the shades that are inside. You've got some tones that lean a bit more tealy, but without going into that full-on green, because they do have the separate green one. So this one's called Cursed Moon, and out of all of them, I think this is probably the one I'd be most tempted to pick up, just because I think there's a bit more variation in this particular palette. Like, I'm just looking at that shade Eerie, and then this one called, is it Beshrewd? They look very, very beautiful, I must say. And then the third one is Vibrant Greens. So they're not the greens that you'd like come across in nature. They're not your earthy or grungy greens. They're your bright, vibrant, very bright greens. Even more so, I think, than the greens that you would spot in Wild Atlantic Way. Like the greens in there, some of them are like grassy green, so still a bit on the naturey side. These ones, no, they're full on bright, vibrant greens, and the green one's called Moonlight Realm. I think I saw a post earlier that one of them is sold out, one of them is almost sold out, and the third one has minimal stock remaining. I don't know if NBA Cosmetics are planning on restocking them. I'm not sure what their plan is at all. Would I buy them? I mean, no, especially now we're in 2025 and I'm in a low buy. It's NBA Cosmetics, so it would probably cost me an arm and a leg to get it to me. As I say, if I was to get any of them, I think it would be the Cursed Moon one, just because I think that's pretty stunning. And I think they did I don't know if they still do it, but I know NBA Cosmetics did do a bundle where you could get all three for a discounted price, but now that one of them is sold out, I'd imagine it's the one they released the earliest, which is the Moon Enchanted Elixir. For some reason they didn't release them all in one go, they staggered it. But yeah, I think all three of them are beautiful. But I'm gonna say no. Like, not even if money was no object, I think I would skip on these. I mean, if I was richy rich, then I think possibly I might get all three of them, but as me, as Gem, being sensible, on a low buy, it would be a no, but I think these are beautiful, and I wouldn't blame anyone who wanted to snap them up. The next release I'm going to talk about is the Pastel Roses, and they've got like a mini collection the Moonlight eyeshadow palette and the Moon Dust highlighter. So they were sneaking some, so they kind of did like a black and white version originally of the palette to show that something was coming. And I was intrigued. Obviously I recently did test the pastel roses for the first time, and while I enjoyed the performance and I really do like the shimmers and special shades in there, I was thrown off by the fact that some of the shades don't have the depth that I expected them to from the swatches that I've seen on their website. So that's kind of put me off a little bit when it comes to the Pastel Roses palette. And then when the palette was revealed and I saw this colour story, I kind of thought, meh. It's nice enough, but I didn't gasp and think to myself, oh my gosh, I must have it. This is the most beautiful palette I've ever seen in the whole entire world. No. It's an alright colour story. It's not grabbing me, but I'd be cautious now going forward when it comes to the Pastel Roses because of the fact that I had that experience with the deeper matte shade just not being anywhere near as deep as I'd envisaged. So I'd probably want to see people using this, and any palette that they release in the future. I can't imagine, have I seen swatches? Should we have a quick look? Okay, so there are some swatches, but looking at these, I'd be dubious about the depth of Infinity, Dark Side and Dust. Like I would second guess now how deep those shades would be. And funnily enough, swatched out it is more appealing than it is in the palette. But I think I'd want to see more swatches. I'd want to see it demonstrated, but it's not grabbing me. It's pretty. I can give it pretty, but generally it's not something that I would pick up. So that would be no. Natasha Denona has released a mini 5-pan matte palette. The era of eye sculpting is here. So it's an all matte neutral, so you've got like your very light, kind of like an off-white shade, beige, mid-tone brown, deeper brown, black. I think it's something, it could be like a nice staple to have in your collection. It could be nice if you're someone who owns a lot of all shimmer palettes. I would imagine this could be something that's really, really nice to just have to pull out. And maybe if I had more shimmer singles, it would be something I'd more inclined to have. But generally it's not something for me. I almost feel like it's for the makeup enthusiast who's like a few levels above me, I would say. I can see how it would be useful to have, but it's not something that I would buy. I'm more of I don't have many singles. I mean, I have acquired some just randomly, and I did buy some when I bought my Pastel Roses Pumpkin Spice palette. I did buy some then, but generally I don't have a lot of singles, so this isn't something that I feel I would need to balance it out. Plus the sort of two lightest shades in there are not necessarily ones I could reach for. Yes, I'm using lighter mattes as inner corner highlight these days, but I'd almost prefer a build your own version of a palette like this, so I could have that gradient, but my gradient wouldn't be as steep and I wouldn't go as light as that. Then it would be more tempting, but in this format it would be an easy pass for me. No. Oh, remember Alamar Cosmetics? I feel like Alamar Cosmetics, what was that palette that they did? I feel like it was really popular at the time, but then you never really hear much about Alamar Cosmetics. They kind of faded into obscurity. I'm not going to dwell on this one, it would just be a no. It's marginally pretty to look at, but the swatches are pretty light and not something that would add any value to what I already own, so that would be an easy pass for me. But it popped out, it stood out to me just because the name, I recognised it from, I'll see if I can dig out that Alamar Cosmetics palette from before. I can't remember what it was called, but no. Next, Mob Beauty and Not Another Hannah have done this collab, so I think there's more to it. I think I've only taken a picture of the lipstick. I feel like, is this the one that's got eyeshadows as well, or is it the other collab that they've done with, is it Courtney Quarantine? But this one is meant to mimic the colour of dried blood, which sounds gross, but it's actually a very beautiful colour. This is tempting after saying that I don't need more lipsticks though. Like, I just, I really don't need any more lipsticks in my collection, but this is a really beautiful shade, and I think this would be really, really flattering on deep skin tones as well. I could be tempted. I mean, I don't know how much they are. Let me dig out how much they are. And it might be that I kind of, I know I'm supposed to be on a low buy. It's really bad, isn't it? But I do go to the States next month, so I'm thinking to myself, do I have like a mini blowout while I can get products delivered in the USA and pick them up, so I don't have to pay extortionate shipping fees? Maybe there's a few bits I can pick up. So this is really tempted. 1, to try a new brand, and 2, because that colour is beautiful. So let's put that in yes if money were no object, because I think I probably would have pulled the trigger by now if I wasn't on a low buy and I didn't think I already had too many lipsticks. Having said that, I do need to do a lipstick declutter. And for me, Living Creatures Compendium 2.0 Moon series. So this is a collection of 6 different palettes. There's a matte rainbow type palette, which is a bit like the Natasha Denona one, where it could be nice to have if you're starting out. That's probably the one that appeals to me the most. Has it got more shades as well than the other ones? It looks longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it is. Yeah, this one's got, it's a bit longer than the others. It's got 12 shades as opposed to 10. But yeah, maybe, I don't know if that's the why it jumps out to me more, because it's slightly different size. I mean, it would be a no to all of them. That rainbow one, but again, I think that would be good for someone starting out. For someone like me who's got a rainbow palette multiple times over, not so much. But I do love how they're almost the pure rainbow colours. Your Rigabiv, what was that? Red, orange, Roygabiv. I think that's how you put it. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Those are pretty. But no. While I am supposed to be on a low buy, I did say that one thing I wanted to do in 2025 was show some love to some UK indie brands in particular. But I feel like the UK indie scene has got off to a bit of a rocky start. So, Memoir by Beauty Moon Cosmetics. So I've been eyeing Beauty Moon Cosmetics. They did that Ice Maiden palette, which I was tempted by, but it was just a little bit too close to me for Metamorph. It was kind of like Metamorph but cooler almost, and without as much depth. So I passed on that, but I thought to myself, let me keep an eye out, see what else Beauty Moon Cosmetics comes out with, what colour stories they release. Maybe I'll pick something up in the future. So they've released this palette and it's called Memoir. And I feel really bad saying this because it's in memory, I believe, of the brand owner's grandmother. But for me, I think it might be one of the ugliest palettes I've seen in recent times. I really don't like the colour story. I really don't. It just does absolutely nothing for me. I'm not seeing it. And the guilt that I feel in saying that, because I imagine that it's something that is really dear to the owner's heart, giving the meaning behind it. But as a colour story, and if I take the emotion out of it, I just really don't like the palette. Really don't. This is an easy pass for me. And while we're talking about UK indie brands, there was a third one, Poppy and Fluff Cosmetics. So they're new. Indigo Dreams, and again, a colour story that does absolutely nothing for me. Not as unappealing as Memoir, perhaps, but as a colour story, I look at this and I feel nothing. not grabbing me at all. Supporting indie brands for the start of 2025, not going so well. What's next? Ace Beauté Whimsical Bloom. Leans a touch too pastel for me, I think. No, it would be a no for me. And I'll just put some swatches up as well so you can see the swatches. Maybe not as pastel, it's got some vibrant colours in there. But no, it's pretty enough, but it's not for me. Oh, and I was right. So going back to the Mob Beauty, the eyeshadow palette that I was thinking of, it is indeed a collaboration with Courtney Quarantine. And I guess it's kind of cute, but it's 4 shades. It's 2 reds, 2 different shades of brown, like a taupey brown. So that would be a no. But the lipstick is intriguing. Again, the Mob is getting me with their lipsticks. See that with a brown liner, very fitting with the Pantone colour of the year. I'd be curious to know what that would look like on me, but I think paired with the Donnie Darkowitz Blend Bunny 89 fine liner, I think that could be spectacular. So what I might do is look at getting those 2 Mob Beauty lipsticks. Gosh, this no-buy is not getting off to a good start. To be fair, I've only pre-ordered Just a Taste and Law. I don't think I ordered any other. My Clinique eyeliner, but that's fine because that was to replace something that had finished. I might have to look again at those Mob Beauty lipsticks. Lisa Eldridge. So it was pointed out, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's quite a clever little concept, you know, easier way to spot conceal. Because sometimes even when you've got a concealer with a smaller applicator, even a smaller applicator is actually still quite large. So you might put a little dab on, but it's actually quite a lot, and then you kind of blend it out. So when I saw this and I saw the premise, I was like, that's really clever actually. A nice pinpoint way, and I think pinpoint's like her trademark thingy that she says it repeatedly, but it's a nice pinpoint way if you've got a little blemish, like I've got some acne scarring here. So I thought, yeah, that'd be really good. I can do a bit of spot concealing, pinpoint concealing, just in the area that I need it without going overboard with how much product I'm using. And then it got brought to my attention, I think it was a Makeup Journey. I will link her details down below. Cassie, their name, over on Instagram, pointed out the cost per gram. And I nearly fell off, well, I was in bed at the time, I nearly fell out of bed. I didn't, but if I'd been standing, I possibly would have keeled over with the shock at how much it costs per gram. And it's a stupid amount per gram. I'm going to have to list it here because to do the maths right now, I think would only enrage me more, but I will find it out and I'll put the cost per gram below for you. But that's eye-watering, that's daylight robbery, but because of people aren't batting an eyelid, they're just dropping it in their baskets and they're checking out because it's Lisa Eldridge, they like the concept, and they're not even considering, is it like 60 quid per gram? That might be, let me not inflate it just in case it's not as much as that. But when I tell you it's an obscene amount of money per gram, it's obscene, but people are not batting an eyelid. This is the kind of thing that even if I had more money than sense, I would not buy this product. It is outrageous. Editing gem here, and I think I need to put this into perspective more so you can really grasp how expensive this product is. The Natasha Denona High Glam Concealer is £32 for 7 grams, making it £4.57 per gram. The Pat McGrath Sublime Perfection Concealer is £30 for 5 millilitres, which is effectively also 5 grams, which makes it £6 per gram. So if you're thinking that I'm overreacting by how enraged I am by how expensive this product is, I'm hoping that giving you these comparisons will help you understand why this price is obscene. I just, no. It's a silly amount. Like, it's a great concept. I really love the concept, and I think so many people are caught up in that concept and how good it is that they're not considering how expensive it is for the quantity you actually get. And it's such a shame. It really, really is. But absolutely not. Not even if money was no object, out of principle, because that's eye-watering and it's daylight robbery, and Lisa Eldridge should quite frankly be ashamed of herself. No. Simply Posh Cosmetics Snow Angel. Which, now I'm looking at this, it's kind of reminding me, it's got similar vibes, in a way, to the Nomad Cosmetics recent release, which I will get to. No, I think I've seen the swatches for this, and that whole entire top row, because it leans more towards the pastel, I don't know how I feel about it. Like, as we've established, I don't mind a few lighter toned mattes in a palette, that's fine. And I think there are some of these that I could probably get away with, and they'd be like a really nice pastel shade on my lid. But there are one or two that I think would just go too far the other way and just end up looking a bit ashy. It's pretty, and I do like the way Simply Posh does their palettes. I like that gradient, and I like the rose and the way it's laid out. I think it's especially beginner friendly, but generally I'm also noticing now you've got like a more pinky purpley side and a more bluey greeny icy side. It's very, very pretty, but no, it's not. Coastal or Cozy Cabin, I'd be interested in maybe acquiring those down the line. I know Cozy Cabin's available. Coastal, they're very similar colour stories, but for me I prefer Coastal. And when they were promoting Snow Angel and they talked about Cozy Cabin being in stock again, I asked if Coastal was coming back, and they said they were thinking about it. One thing I don't get about Simply Posh is they never have anything in stock. It's really bizarre. It's like they concentrate on one or two palettes at a time, which I get it, maybe it's a cash flow thing, but it's just really unusual, because if you've just discovered the brand and you potentially want to go back and get their back catalogue, it's not there, so you can't. At the moment, I think the only two you can purchase are Snow Angel and Cozy Cabin. Cozy Cabin, one that was a limited edition at the time, but I think they've rejigged the packaging to make it something that's permanent. Next up, we've got the Colourpop New Moon collection. Now this is interesting because obviously people were up in arms when the Twilight collection was released, questioning where all the reds were, and apparently they're here. Well, I say where all the reds were. There's two. Is there two? Well, there's one that's bang slap in the middle called Bloodsuckers, and that looks to be a shimmer. And then there's a red toned brown which is called Paper Cut. This is very, very pretty. I think this is what people were expecting to see when they released the Twilight palette. I'm not a Twilight fan. I haven't watched any of the films. I have no intention of ever watching any of the films. But to me, when Colourpop explained it and they said it was more to do with, I think there's like a filter that they use over the Twilight movies where it's got like this cool toned, almost greenish tint to the film for the duration. Again, haven't seen it, don't know if that's the case. I'm just commenting based on what Colourpop said and the footage and the stills that I've seen from the film. That colour story did make sense, and it made sense to some people because you guys sold it out. This is very pretty. It's nice. It's reasonably priced. It's Colourpop. Is it a palette I will get? No, because this is a palette that I can easily dupe. So maybe even watch out for a Scratch That Itch video where I dupe this palette. Would I buy it? No. No. I think most people at this point if you have a lot of palettes, you've probably got a palette that looks like that in your collection, most probably. If you're new to makeup, less so. Statistically speaking, you may not have this palette in your collection yet. But for someone like me, I have it. I mean, I know I have it at least once. Have I got it more than once? I don't know off the top of my head. But I definitely have it at least once. So keep your eyes peeled for a scratch that itch coming up. Unearthly. So these came out just after I'd done that pre-order. And there's part of me that's thinking, if this had come out before I did the pre-order of Just a Taste and I picked up Law, would I have purchased these? Probably not Murky Meadow, because it's giving me very Cosmic Brushes Undergrowth vibes. But Shadowed Petal, that looks kind of appealing, and I was wondering if I had anything. I think I do, now I'm thinking about it. So these colours, I definitely have them. I could potentially do a scratch that itch with Shadowed Petal, because that's the one I was drawn to and the one I was tempted, and I thought to myself that I would pick up. They're very pretty, I've got to say, and I like the size, the 9-pan, they're really cute little curations. Those are nice, especially Shadowed Petal, that's really pretty. Would I buy them though? As someone on a low buy, no, and Gem from last year, who was buying basically everything, would I? I could be tempted by Shadowed Petal. That's really pretty. I like that. I'm sure I have this though. I have this. It's gonna be... I don't know the Unearthly formula yet. That's one of the reasons that I took the plunge and I ended up getting Just a Taste, because Just a Taste was one of those palettes that I had been eyeing and I had been looking up, and people kept talking about it, and it featured in a few people's best palettes of 2024. So when they did that pre-order, I caved because I wanted to try the brand and I wanted to try the formula. So once I have that and I've tested the brand, I mean, from what people have said about it, I'm sure I will enjoy it too. But before I would even consider buying any more things from Unearthly, I'd want to try them first and see how I get on with them. But I do really like these two palettes, I must say. I'd put that in yes if money were no object. Yeah, yes if money were no object. I think that's where those would sit. Divinity from Davini Beauty. It's kind of neutral with a pop of blue and pink, isn't it? And then would you say that's a purple? There's not enough there. It's pretty, but it's not enough. It's not grabbing me. So I'm not going to dwell on that. Divinity, pretty, but no, I don't think that's something I'd pick up. Patrick Tar's releasing blushes with random names. Like I think it was IL Beauty did a story where they were taking the piss out of the shade names. I wish I'd done a screenshot. I've kind of just been put off buying any Patrick Tar products, just with things that have gone on recently with that. Funny enough, I watched Robert Welsh's video earlier on today when he was talking about shady brands, and Patrick Tar came up. Is it Ivona? I think her name's Ivona. She was a black creator basically who did some work on some Patrick Tar merchandise and was just never paid. So she emailed and she sent DMs through Instagram and was ignored, and she lost it basically because she'd had enough of trying to reach out and get payment for what she was owed. She did a TikTok where she destroyed all of her Patrick Tar products that she had and threw them away, and people were more concerned about the fact that she was destroying product that could potentially have been donated than they were about the fact that this multi-million-dollar business just refused to pay her what she was owed. I think that was the more concerning issue, to be honest. I'm not sure Patrick Tar is ever going to be a brand that I'm going to purchase from. There's something doesn't sit right. And what a load of rubbish his apology video was. Something doesn't sit right with me for Patrick Tar. Some of these do look pretty, I'm not going to lie. Some of them really do look pretty, but I just no, Patrick Tara's is just not for me. MAC and these nude lipsticks. I'm gonna, without even kind of going into these in depth, I would probably put these in yes if money were no object. There are a few shades in there that I would be really, really curious to try. Even a few of the light ones, I'd be curious to see like some of the really, really light ones with a brown lip liner, how they would look. I'd be very, very curious. So I'm going to say yes if money were no object. Do I need more lipsticks? No, I need lipstick like I need a hole in the head. But some of these MAC ones do look really stunning. And you've got the bullet lipsticks, you've got the lip liners, and then you've got what looks like glosses as well. And I've been seeing people get them, that they've ordered them and swatching them and trying them out, and I'm like, ooh, those do look nice. Yes, if money were no object. That's where I'm putting those MAC lippies. Ooh, Lethal Cosmetics X Dexter. I'm a Dexter fan. I got into Dexter a bit later than most when it was on originally, and I still need to watch, would I call it a reboot? The sequel? I think it's just the one season. I started it, I never got around to finishing it, and obviously they've just got Original Sin that started up. So I've subscribed to Paramount. I'm going to start watching Original Sin because I'm curious, and from what I've heard, it's a good prequel. So we'll see. But going back to the actual makeups here, that palette is genius. I love that they have put it in the packaging of Dexter's blood slides. I just think that that's a genius idea. It's super clever. I think the collection as a whole is just really cute. I love how they've leaned into, like, the glosses are the evidence vials, or what's the other thing? What do you call them? I'll find the word, but there's evidence vials, and then there's some like other biochemical waste product container that the other products are in. Then you've got the brushes, which is like Dexter's knives, his tools, and then you've got the luminol highlighter, and you've got the nail polishes. I just think it's a really well thought out collection for Dexter. I really, really do. When it comes to the colour story of the palette, it's not something I would get, only because I've just got a taste, so I feel like that's going to be similar vibes. I feel like I've got the reds from like maybe the Sinister palette, like Kyma Cosmetics that I recently got, which I think formula wise, I was going to say it would piss all over this palette, maybe that's a bit extreme. But I think the special shades in that Kyma Cosmetics palette would be more impressive than this Dexter one. Plus, and I'll insert the swatches as comparisons, this has got very similar vibes to the Fire Avatar palette. So this one's obviously got the grey tones, but if you were to get the Fire Avatar palette, so maybe should I do another scratch that itch with this? Ooh, yeah, because I think, yeah, the Fire palette that Avatar have done themselves, Lethal Cosmetics have done themselves, paired with a few of the shades from that Beauty Bay Smoky palette, I think that's a pretty good dupe. As cool as I think this collection is, and as much as I think they've nailed it, even if money were no object, I don't think I would buy it. And the thing is, with special packaging like this, I think it's great, but then my gripe is storing it. If I've got a petty reason for not purchasing something, if it's going to save me some coins, so be it. But it would really irritate me finding a way of storing that, because it doesn't fit the shape of any other palettes that I own. It's great, I love the theming, but I don't think I'd pick any of it up. But props to Lethal though, I've got to give it to them. I think after being thoroughly disappointed in their Moonlit Serenade, Spellcraft, but the Spellcraft release, because it looked like Moonlit Serenade. Is it called Moonlit Serenade? And the other one? Lethal have basically done a bunch of purple palettes that all kind of look a bit like each other, so I feel like they've redeemed themselves a little bit with the creativity and ingenuity. Is that the word I'm looking for? Possibly, I don't know. I like this collection, but I still wouldn't buy it, but I think it's great. Really well thought out. Blend Bunny so they kind of announced that something was coming, and then they didn't hang about really showing it to us, which I'm relieved at. Sometimes releases can just take too long. They tease for too long, to the point where I almost lose interest along the way. So I'm quite glad in the pace that Blend Bunny have had in revealing this palette. It's a massive deviation from what they normally do. So it's very pink, but then I say it's very pink, it's actually only 2 shades that are very pink, the 2 at the end. I think you almost get a bit thrown off by the pinkness of the packaging. Like, I almost wish the packaging was black with pink lettering and a pink design on the front rather than that hot pink packaging, because I think it almost detracts from the colour story inside. I quite like it. It's you know how you normally have your neutrals with a pop of blue, a bit like the Divinity palette. This is your neutral with your pop of pink. And there is something really appealing about it. And I was thinking to myself, could I dupe that? And I think I possibly could, but I think I'd need multiple palettes to do it, which for, is it 12 shades? Yeah, 12 shades in there. Do you want to pull out 3 or even 4 palettes just to be able to dupe a 12-pan eyeshadow palette like that? Probably not. While I like that Blend Bunny have done something different, and it's not as if the palette sizes of Blend Bunny palettes are consistent anyway, but when I think about if I was to put this on my shelf with my other Blend Bunny palettes, this would get swallowed up by my shelf. Like, I'm thinking about how it would stack up, and it would either get pushed right to the back of the shelf, or if I laid it down the other way, it would just look really short and stumpy. Which again is like a very nitpicky thing to say about it. I do kind of like it. I do. I am drawn to it, and it's magnetic pans in this as well. Magnetic pans, and I do like the embossings. I do like it when palettes have embossings. I don't know why, because by the time you've used each shade 2 or 3 times, the embossings are practically gone. Would I buy it though? As a collector, if money were no object, yes, I probably would, to be fair. But as someone who's currently on a no buy and who likes a bit of pink but is not someone who reaches for pink a lot, no. Again, props to Blend Bunny for doing something different, but I don't think this is something that I would pick up. And then Nomad Cosmetics. So they announced that something was coming. I think they announced something was coming at the end of last year actually, and then they posted about the guessing game started. So it's like I mentioned, where sometimes you've got brands that will tease for months and months. I think, was it Lethal, who were guilty of teasing something for months and months, and it might have been the Avatar collection actually, to the point where by the time they released it, a lot of people were fed up already. Nomad, I like the way that they do it. So they say something's coming, then they're like, by the way, guessing game is going to start on Monday. They sneak peek a few shades, give you give you a few clues about the palette, so you can guess the location it's based on, guess the theming, and eventually guess the name of the palette. So I played along all week. I was in the wrong country to begin with, but once I got the country, I was able to sort of participate and play along and get the rest of the answers. While the image is up here, I will show you the shades that I'm concerned about. So all 3 of the bottom matte shades, and then after watching Dr. Ash and her makeup earlier on today when she was testing it out, also the pink matte shade underneath the deep pink matte. Dr. Ash, so Ashley also struggled with that, and she is considerably lighter than I am. So I'm just wondering how these shades would appear on my skin tone. I've seen that Deandra Nicole has done some swatches, so I might share those in case you're like me and you've got a deeper skin tone and you're wondering to yourself, oof, how's that going to work for me? I think it's beautiful. I do think it's a really beautiful palette. My concern is I don't know if it's got enough of the depth for me. And that's a lot of shades to be dipping into for my inner corner highlight now. And in case you're wondering, I actually have Nomad on my eyes today, so I don't know when this is going up. But this is Fuji 5 Lakes that I've got one look on each eye currently. That wasn't planned. Well, it wasn't planned like, oh, I'm going to film with Nomad and then I'm going to end talking about this Nomad palette. I was just overdue filming with Fuji 5 Lakes, to be honest. And then it was kismet, I suppose, that Nomad did the full reveal today, so it coincided. Would I get this? It's really beautiful. Like, I'm just looking at these shades and it's greens, it's blues, it's kind of purples. But these are greens, these are different tones. It's a bit like I said with the MBA Cosmetics. While they're your vibrant greens, these are more muted, but they're different shades of green. I don't even know if these types of greens appear in my earthy palette. I don't think they do because they're not your earthy tones. But they're not the type of greens that appear in Wild Atlantic Way, for example. The blues, I think I'm more likely to have those. The pinks, again, less so. I don't feel as if I'd be duping much, if anything, that I already have. And aesthetically, it's a beautiful looking palette. I'm just concerned about the lack of depth for my skin tone. So that would be yes if money were no object. Would Gem, even on a no buy, well, I'm not on a no buy, I'm on a low buy, would Gem make an exception for this palette? Again, because I've got that option to ship it to my friend in the States. It's tempting. I don't know. It's only been revealed today. Let me see more swatches. Let me see more people demoing it. I'll wait and see which other darker content creators get their hands on this palette. But as much as I genuinely really like the palette, I just don't know how much use I'd get out of it. I don't know, it's not released until Tuesday at this point, so I'll have a think and decide if it's something that I want to order and pick up when I go to the States next month, or if this is something that I will just skip. That's everything. I've kind of whizzed through, like I didn't want to go right back to the stuff that was effectively in early December, because quite frankly at this point it's not new and it's not recent anymore. It's a little bit skew with. So is there anything that's caught your eye? Have I gone too far the other way now? Yeah, I have. Yeah. Have any of these new, upcoming and or recent releases caught your eye? Is there anything that you thought to yourself, ooh, that's a bit of me, I'm going to buy that? Are you on a no buy this year or a low buy like me? It's going to be tricky. It's only January and there's already been a fair few eyebrow raising, you know, like, ooh, what's that there? A few things that have definitely piqued my interest, but I'm just trying to be more sensible and I want to pace myself. I don't want to blow my low buy. Have I blown it already? To one purchase, Unearthly, 2 palettes. I think that's okay. February could be tricky. It's Valentine's Day. I imagine Beauty Bay are going to do a palette. I probably will pick that up because it's going to be 20 quid, if that. It might be 16. I can't remember offhand how much those £20 palettes are. But depending on the colour story, there's a good chance I probably will pick that one up. Generally, there tend to be a fair few releases around Valentine's Day. I might be safe in March. But yeah, let's see. I don't want to go right out the gate, just blow my no buy out of the water. So low buy, not no buy, low buy. But yeah, has anything caught your eye? What have you bought already this year? So it's Sunday the 12th of January. What have you bought already? And if you were on a low buy or no buy, has anything made you break it, or has anything made you seriously consider throwing that low or no buy out the window? Because let me tell you, there's already some things. Not much, but there are a few things that have made me consider. Right, I think I'll leave it there. Slower start, I think, to new releases. There was a lot I just didn't talk about because I think we'd have been here till Christmas and we were only in January, so that would have been pretty long going. Interested to know what you think about the releases so far. Have you got any predictions for the rest of the year? I'd be curious, how many palettes do you think Nomad will release this year, and how many palettes do you think Blend Bunny will release this year? Because I think that they're probably the two most guilty of releasing quite a lot. So yeah, what are your predictions for how many each of those will release? As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye. And think to myself, oh, I must have it. Ooh, tea break.